So you're thinking about moving to Palm Beach County, Florida, and you want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly? Well, if that's the case, then this video is for you. My family and I relocated here to Palm Beach County, Florida about 15 years ago. We moved here from the Long Island, New York City area, and we haven't looked back. We know what it takes to relocate from an out-of-state to here in Palm Beach County. So if this is the first time to my channel and you're thinking about moving to Palm Beach County, please consider hitting that subscribe button in the corner. And while you're at it, ring that little bell. What that'll do is that'll notify you each time I put out new videos. I put out new videos every single Tuesday. We talk about all things Palm Beach. Today, I help people relocate here to Palm Beach County, Florida. Best way, if you're thinking about moving to Palm Beach County, Florida, a couple of ways to get a hold of me. Right here down below is my email address. That's ray@flhomesbyray.com. That's one way. Or you can go in the About section of my YouTube. That is my phone. You can either call or text. That's a great way. Another great way is either in a description or in the comments section pinned to the top is a link. Click on that link. That's a great way for us to connect. If you do decide to click on that link, what that'll do is give you a choice. You'll be on my schedule. You can either schedule a phone call or a Zoom call. Generally speaking, our first conversation takes about a half hour. I just want you to be comfortable. So if you want to talk more about moving to Palm Beach County or what's involved with it or anything about Palm Beach County, click on that link or that phone call or that email, whichever you feel most comfortable with. So why did we move to Palm Beach County, Florida 15 years ago? Well, my former life, my former career, I was a Wall Street trader. I ran a Wall Street trading desk, worked for a firm called BNP Paribas, one of the largest banks in the world, and I traded for them professionally. I was managing director, and we traded stocks between all around the world, between Europe especially and the United States. We did something called ADR arbitrage. But what happened is back in those years, this was right before the Great Recession, which also was around the time the real estate market peaked at that time. Banks were scaling back. They were under immense pressure from a regulatory standpoint from the government and local governments to stop taking risk. And that's what I did. I bought and sold stocks on their behalf and on behalf of our largest clients at the firm. So back in around 2005, they offered several of us traders severance and an opportunity, which turned out to me, an opportunity to consider moving to another area, which I did, to Palm Beach County, Florida. So the purpose of this video is to tell you about some of the downsides or some of the negatives that you might not necessarily know. Because when I moved here, there were things I was a little bit surprised at, and I didn't have someone like myself now. I help people uncover all the what you might or might not expect. So I didn't have anyone like that. So I had to sort of figure a lot of this out on my own, which is fine. Sometimes going through the hard stuff makes you that much stronger. So we had 2 children when we moved here, and they were in around the kindergarten ages, and so we're looking at daycare and stuff like that. So one of the cons that people will tell you, not necessarily accurate, is be careful of the schools in Florida because it's going to be a big downgrade, especially coming from New York. Well, I found that not necessarily to be true. I now have 3 children much older. My daughter was born here in Palm Beach County, Florida. In fact, story is I was born in the Bronx. Gabriel was born in Queens, New York. Raymond was born in Manhattan. So we were hoping to cover all the boroughs, but we missed out on that. My daughter Bella was born here in Palm Beach County, Florida. So they've all gone through the program, go through all the schools. My oldest now is up in college at Florida State University, which is an excellent college. And Gabriel is in high school, and Bella is in middle school. So we transition through all sorts of stages when it comes to schools. They have not just public schools, and they have private schools. Private schools can be very expensive. There are some here, believe it or not, that will cost you somewhere in the area of $25,000 to $30,000 a year per child. Is the education better by spending all that extra money? I don't know, but I know a lot of people don't have that kind of money. And there definitely are alternatives, and we didn't go that route. Some of the best public schools are also charter schools and magnet schools, and we did go that route. So you don't necessarily have to be You don't necessarily have to be districted for a certain school to not have a great school. So there are some magnet schools. If your child has a certain interest in something, that's a way to go through it. The charter schools also, they have a different structure, but they're funded through the public. So if people tell you watch out for the Florida public schools, Florida schools in general, don't necessarily listen. It might not necessarily be a con. If you want to learn more about that, reach out. I'll be happy to explain our experience and what you should look for when considering Florida schools, whether it's public or private. So what I wish I knew. Well, the weather. The weather, yes, I knew that it would be much hotter here in Florida than it would be in New York. And in fact, it's much more hot here than anywhere else in the country, for that matter. I don't care if you're moving from Atlanta, Georgia. There's a big difference when you come to South Florida. In fact, there's a big difference when you move to South Florida versus Central Florida in places like Orlando. We have a very subtropical climate here, and it doesn't necessarily get hotter here in the summer. That's one of the myths. But one thing I did not know was how long the summer would last. I've said this in previous videos. I think the nicest month of the year to live here in South Florida is March. There's a lot of stuff going on here, such as baseball. There's a lot of spring. It's a spring training home. Palm Beach County is to many teams here, such as the Washington Nationals, the Florida Marlins, the St. Louis Cardinals. Just a little bit north of us is in Port St. Lucie is the New York Mets. That's their spring training home. So when we start in March, it gradually gets warmer, and right around Memorial Day and a little bit after, we start what we call the rainy season. I did not realize how much rain that we do get. In fact, it's above average. But one thing that I will say is that it almost never rains here in the morning. Here I am at around noon, and here we are in September. It almost never rains at noon. It's around the afternoon when the rains kick in. But one thing I did not know is literally how much it rains here in South Florida. We basically have one long rainy season and a really hot season, and one long dry and cooler season. So while you're not necessarily going to be extremely hot during the summer compared to other places, you will have a very long summer. It'll start like around April. It'll start getting really, really warm. And right now, here we are in September, and we're still getting 90 degrees. The other thing I want to mention, which is another thing I wish I knew, and I've heard about it, but I didn't realize to the degree, is the hurricanes. September is the hurricane month here for South Florida. We get like about 50% of the worst hurricanes, the named storms that come our way, happen around this time of year. And the second most are the month before and the month after, the second and third. So that's one thing you need to know about. We have things to prepare ourselves, and most Floridians are actually accustomed to hurricanes. They get used to it. They learn how to prepare for it. But at the end of the day, if you have a Category 5 hurricane off the coast, which is what we had about 2 years ago, it is a little bit scary. Category 5 is like 150 miles per hour, and we had one that was approaching Florida, and it pretty much stopped as it approached Florida and went straight up the coast. It got right to the Bahamas, so it was literally about 50 miles off our coast, and we were scathed. So in my 15 years that I've lived here, I've had to shutter up about 5 times. And when I mean shutter up, I mean we had to put hurricane shutters on our home. They're meant to withstand 150 miles an hour wind. They test them by shooting a 2x4, believe it or not, into the panels or into the hurricane accordion shutters. And if it can withstand that, that's how they pass. And that's what's considered code here in Palm Beach County, Florida. On the positive side, when it comes to the weather, is you cannot beat the winters here. If you look at a map, like if you get USA Today, someplace where it's very national in terms of the weather, and you look at a map of where it is in Minnesota, where it will be lots of times below zero, and you'll see in the midst of January, we'll be pretty warm. The humidity is gone by then, and we do literally have some of the nicest weather here in the wintertime. But we have to endure the summer months, and pretty much around October is when that changes. Mid-October, the humidity disappears, and it'll get really nice. And it's also when we get a lot of people coming down from the north. We call them snowbirds. So let's make that a number 2 con. We get a lot of people down here from the north. Our traffic, or the amount of people down here will swell. Consider it a good or a bad thing, but that's a factor that we have here in South Florida during the winter months. So a typical snowbird will come down here around mid-October, let's call it Columbus Day, around October 15th each year, and they'll pretty much stay through the end of April. That's considered our season. So as you can imagine, because the demand is so high to be here, if there are renters or people looking to just rent for the season, the rents will skyrocket. In fact, a home that might rent for, let's say, $2,000 a year and $2,000 a month annually for the entire year, around that time, if someone were to rent from October 15th through the end of April, it would triple. So if you wanted to move here in a home like that, you can expect to pay about $6,000 a month. The good news about that time of year is there is a ton of things to do. We're geared for what we call the season here, so lots of events that don't necessarily take place in the summer will take place here in those months. We have farmers markets, as an example, that they stop in the summertime. People go on vacation this time in the summer. We get lots of people in South Florida that go on vacation this time of year. It's because that's their, that's when we can. That's when they can. They want to get away from the heat, so they might go up to they might go over to Colorado or places like that. But our summertime is when people go on vacation, and in the wintertime, that's when we get our snowbirds, and we get literally probably about a 25% increase in traffic here. I've done videos on Palm Beach Island, and Palm Beach Island, literally their population swells by more than double in the summertime that time of year. Okay, another con. Because of everything I've just explained, the traffic in the wintertime is crazy. And in general, it's heavy. There's no major transportation systems like you do have in New York, like the subway system. Of course, we have buses. We do have something called a tri-rail, which is rather helpful if you want to go from downtown West Palm Beach in the center of Palm Beach County and go down to Miami. That's a great way to do it. I don't know that enough people really take advantage of that, or if that's a viable option in lots of cases. But in general, the traffic is very heavy. If you're driving from Palm Beach County, Florida, into Miami during rush hour, because I know people that have jobs and work down there. It's pretty insane. What would normally be an hour ride can take up to 2 hours because of the intense traffic down in Miami. And some of the worst, not just some of the worst traffic is here, it's probably one of the most dangerous places to drive around the country. Let me give you a few factors why that is the case. First off, a lot of people retire here in Florida, as that's always been the case for decades and decades. So because of that, we have an older population at times. You'll have people that are driving that really shouldn't be driving, and they're, maybe for whatever reason they're still driving at an age that's way past when they should. So we have a lot of older people on the roads that might not necessarily should be driving. We also have a lot of transient people. So we have people that move here to Florida and will stay here for a few years and then maybe move on to somewhere else. For whatever reason, we do get a lot of that. We get a lot of snowbirds. Couple that with the snowbirds who are only here for a few months of the year. Now these people might not know the roads that well. So you have people who are a little bit older that shouldn't be necessarily driving. You have people who don't know where they're going that are driving. So those two factors alone will make it for a very difficult place at times to drive here in South Florida. Do me a favor and go ahead and smash that like button. What that'll do is that'll help get more people here to watch this video, get more people to understand what's involved when it comes to living and moving to Palm Beach County, Florida. Here's another con, and I wish I knew this. Not that it would change my mind necessarily, but I wish I knew this from the standpoint that I was surprised when we moved here. The cost of insurance is very, very high. And when I say insurance, I mean both homeowners insurance and auto insurance. I just talked about the traffic issues. that's a factor when it comes to carriers looking to insure drivers here in South Florida. There are a lot of uninsured motorists down here, and a few years back, meaning almost 10 years ago now, they instituted something that helped raise the premiums, which is obviously not good for us as consumers, called the uninsured driver aspect of insurance. So if you're thinking about moving down here and you're wondering about the cost of auto insurance, you can expect to pay more money. Also, if you have a teenager or a younger person that wants to get on your policy, you can literally expect your auto insurance to double. No kidding, double. Not that I've done that yet. Thankfully, my kids have not begged me to drive yet, but I know lots of people who have teenage kids or kids that are in their early 20s that are asked to drive and put on their policy, and their auto insurance rates double. When it comes to homeowners insurance, we have a big problem here in South Florida. In fact, it's gotten worse because of the hurricanes. The premiums for homeowners insurance has always been high, but they've been going up recent years at rates that are just unseen. Part of it is there's a dire need of tort reform or reform for people who are taking advantage of the insurance situation here in South Florida. Governor DeSantis has put some measures in place to try and combat this, but some of them, in my opinion, will probably take a little bit of time to work their way through. And the scenario works something like this. If you live in your home for a certain amount of time, and let's say it's 15 years where I am, and you want to get a new roof because roofs are meant to last somewhere between 20 to 30 years, they'll put a claim in with the insurance, and they'll have people literally, whether it's public adjusters, lawyers, or however they do it, which is what DeSantis is actually trying to stop, is to make that illegal to be soliciting that kind of activity. But what they'll do is they'll put a claim in for a new roof, and when they not necessarily have to. And the adjusters and attorneys will walk them through what they need to do to get around the system. What that has done is some property casualty, some insurance carriers have pulled out. So because there are fewer carriers looking to insure homes here in South Florida, that's become a problem. Less supply of carriers are making premiums go way up. Citizens is our carrier, or what used to be called our insurance carrier of last resort. Today, because of this situation, it's almost become the carrier of first resort. If you buy a home that's over 10 years old, that might be the only way to insure your home, because there are not that many carriers looking to insure a home that's more than 10 years old. If you buy new construction, you have more options, but if you have an older home, let's call it 10 years or older, you might only have that one carrier, Citizens, and which again was once your carrier of last resort, might be the first. So the problem we have, one of the big problems we have here in South Florida, is the cost of homeowners insurance. Well, one of the factors you also want to consider, obviously, is the cost of living here. So I remember when we first moved here, my family and we used to drive down to South Beach on Saturday. And the reason why we chose Saturday was because the traffic is crazy during the week, and we can get to South Beach on a Saturday morning like in an hour, which is incredible. And so we would drive in the morning, get there roughly around noon, and have lunch, and it was a great time. So, but one of the things, if you walk down South Beach, and let's say as a family we're walking down the street, if we were to do that today as a family of 5, and someone like my daughter Bella would say, well, let's go stop and get something to drink, that would be like $100 stop. No kidding. So depending on what you're drinking, of course, but if you have a mojito, or that's like a $20 drink, or if you have a beer, that's probably at least an $8, $9 drink. So the cost down in South Beach is crazy. I did a video recently on the cost of living in Wellington, Florida. If you haven't checked that one out, you should. I did 2 of them. I just did one recently that was sort of updated. There are some aspects of Palm Beach County that are better than what you'll encounter in other parts of the country, and obviously there's some that are worse, such as like I mentioned in terms of insurance. But there are some places. My point on all this: there are some places here within the Miami metro area, in particular South Beach, where they are extremely expensive. Like anything, like any place, There's the good and the bad. There's good stuff and bad stuff, and I've focused mainly on some of the bad stuff here in this video. If you want to look at one of my previous videos, it's called The Pros and Cons of Living in West Palm Beach, Florida. For those who don't know, West Palm Beach is the largest city in Palm Beach County. It's about 100,000 people, and when we go out to things such as let's say for improv or for a nice dinner, that's one of the places we go. So if you want to get a balanced look at some of the good and the bad here in Palm Beach County, check out that video. So I hope you found some value about what I've shown here today. If you have any questions about anything, please reach out in the manners I spoke about earlier, or you can drop your question in the comments section down below, and I'll be happy to answer it that way. Now, in a couple seconds, you're going to see a couple of things pop up. Over here, you're going to see a circle with my face in it. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, that is a great way to subscribe to my channel. And over here is a link to another video. And this week, I'm going to let YouTube pick whichever video that is. Hope you get a chance to check that one out. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next one.